Thank you, sir. Professor Venkatesh, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Nagendra Babu.
Okay,
And it is pleasure talking to the participants. Today, I will be speaking on the topic, why study business history? I am great proponent of teaching business history for UG and PG students in commerce and management, which is not happening in a big scale in India. And I think you are all faculty in commerce and management departments would take up this issue in a bigger way wherever possible to teach business history as one of the core courses or value-added courses. Indeed, in my B school, Acharya Bangalore B school at Bengaluru, I am teaching this subject as one of the non-credit courses. And why we have to teach business history is my topic today. And as you are all commerce faculty, I would like to elicit your response from this on this topic. Let me start why we have to study business history. And indeed, most of our works and in economics and management in a way directly and indirectly depend on business history. To cite one example, all of you have heard of The Wealth of Nations written by Adam Smith, and it is essential and historical in approach. I don't know how many of you know in the audience that, for example, a British rule in India has encouraged Adam Smith to write about Wealth of Nations. I think Adam Smith is one of the earliest proponents of free economy. Adam Smith is one of the earliest proponents of liberal economy. Adam Smith is one of the earlier proponents of competition. What he writes in the book Wealth of Nations is that how East India Company, a monopolistic company, ruining Indian economy and elsewhere in the world. The point here is this. The point here is, sorry, when we talk about business history, the Adam Smith is the first person that comes to our mind who used the historical data to prove how monopoly ruins the country's economy, how it ruins the individual economy, and how it ruins the regional economy. And I think all of those who have read Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith would agree with me that his essence of Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations is influenced by a lot of happenings in India also at that time, at that point of time. Indeed, he was one of the greatest critic of East India Company, the way in which it was ruling India. If this is one example, look at what has happened in USA. Alfred D. Chandler, one of the renowned professor of Harvard Business School, propounded teaching business history in B schools. Indeed, even today, Harvard Business School is one of the premier B schools in the world. And you must have seen the QS ranking yesterday. It has figured there. The point is this. The argument of Alfred D. Chandler is that we have to teach business history to UG and PG students in management, commerce, accounting, and business. Of course, he has written a magnum opus on why we have to teach business history. I don't want to talk in detail about his works on the necessity of teaching business history in B schools. But I would quote three important points what he has narrated. One is organization building, performance, and professional management. And these three are the cornerstones of his work to defend why we have to teach business history in B schools. And he proposes that organization building in any organization is by trial and error, and it happens. We have to learn from the past. If any organization tries to reinvent the wheel, it would be disaster for that organization. Therefore, he proposes that organizations should study the business history, and performance is based on the historical data, and the post performance and the present performance and the historical performance and professional management. And another very important proponent of the business history, teaching business history in B schools, is Dwijendra Tripathi. I'm sure many of you in the audience must have gone through the book, The Oxford History of Indian Business, written by Dwijendra Tripathi, which is one of the masterpieces on Indian business history. I am extremely happy to know that he was the former Kasturbai Lalbai Chair Professor of Business History at IIM Ahmedabad. He has introduced that subject in IIM Ahmedabad, and it is one of the very popular courses in IIM among the MBA students in IIM Ahmedabad. And when it has become so successful in Harvard, in IIMs, and why we should not teach the business history in P schools, in colleges, in institutions, where we are preparing our undergraduates and postgraduates in commerce, management, accountancy, and business. And next question you can ask me is, sir, why we have to teach business history? I know I cannot cover that in 1 hour, but that is what my colleague, my friend, Dr. Nagendra Babu has asked me to, engage you. But I would make an effort to tell you that why we have to teach business history. One example I can give you is, earlier business was more sustainable. Consumption was more sustainable. Look at what is happening today. Today, most of the consumption patterns throughout the world are not sustainable. To give you an example, say for example, if I have to talk about ecological footprints, all of you know that the meaning of ecological footprint, which says that the land required to meet an individual consumer needs. If you look at India, it is less than 1 hectare. But if you look at the North American countries, it is more than 10 hectares. If all world starts consuming like North America, we need 3 planet Earths. Do you think the present consumption practices are sustainable? I don't think. But all our economic models are emulating to become the Western model, the Western consumption pattern. And I think from this perspective, we have to teach business history to our students. Second reason why we have to teach business history to our students. We have committed hundreds of mistakes, thousands of mistakes, innumerable number of mistakes in business, in the corporate world. And you take a company, it has committed a mistake. You take an organization, it has committed a mistake. You take a corporate group, it has committed a mistake. And say, for example, all of you have heard of Bhopal gas tragedy. If we do not learn lessons from Bhopal gas tragedy, don't you think we are doing suicidal action? If we are not learning lessons from the Singur nano factory problem in West Bengal, don't you think we are, doing mistake? Don't you think the lot of mergers and acquisitions which has gone wrong, if we don't learn lessons from them, don't you think we are doing injustice to our students? Therefore, we have to teach business history to our students to ensure that when they become corporate leaders, when they become managers, when they become entrepreneurs, they will not repeat the mistakes what the earlier generations have committed. And another very important dimension. I think all of you are hearing me. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
if
sir.
you have any questions, you can ask me. You can interrupt me. I don't mind answering that.
Okay, sir.
Okay, let me continue. I am proposing and I am propounding the idea of teaching business history in B schools from two perspectives so far. One is sustainability angle. Another is from the angle of not repeating the mistakes what we have done. Another very important idea is that impact on different sections. This is one area, I am very much concerned. Most of the time, today's corporate world is working based on the interest of the corporate. It is not based on the interest of the consumer health. It is not based on the interest of the sustainability. It is not based on the interest of the society. It is not based on the interest of the employees. It is based on the interest of the corporate world. We have seen how corporate people are minting money on daily basis. If somebody makes 16 crores, 17 crores per day, don't you think there is something wrong with the system? Don't you think there is wrong with the mechanism in which we are running corporate world? And the gap between the poor and the rich is widening, and rich are becoming richer and poor are becoming poorer. The buying capacity of the poor is decreasing every day in this inflationary trend. And I think we have to look into the business from the angle of the impact it has created on different sections of the society. Look at another example. Lot of farmers lose their land for corporate requirement. What happens to those landlords' children? Where they end up? Have you ever studied? Don't you think that is an important aspect? See, we give, for example, few days back, we have given 3,000, 4,000 acres of land to one corporate house in Karnataka. My question is, I am not judging. Sorry, I am not judging. I don't know. I have not studied whether it is right or wrong. That is not my point here. My point here is, what happens to the environment? What happens when you take land from the farmers? What happens to their children? Have we historically studied this? In and around Bangalore, when farmers sell their land to business houses, the corporate houses, in terms of hundreds of acres and thousands of acres, have we ever made an attempt to study the impact that has created on the farmers? Where these farmers' children are ending up? Are they becoming auto drivers? Are they becoming, I don't know. If they become auto driver, that is fine. I am not degrading any profession. But has it increased their standard of living, or has it decreased their standard of living? If it has decreased their standard of living, something is wrong with that. We have to study the business history from the point of impact of business on different stakeholders. It could be consumers, it could be suppliers, it could be the farmers who depart their land, or it could be anybody like that. Therefore, another reason why we have to study business history is that we have to study the impact earlier decisions what you have taken created on different sections of the society. Another reason why we have to study business history is that we have to study business history to give gratitude. We have to salute those people who created wealth. There are hundreds of people, there are lakhs of people. Say, for example, Verghese Kurian, the man behind Amul, the man behind National Dairy Development Board, the man behind the Operation Flood, the man behind White Revolution, the man who gave stability of income to millions of farmers in the country. Of course, in this point, I want to tell you one more thing. In India, we don't have the culture of recognizing the people who makes difference to economy. We give Bharataratnas, Padma Shris to all Tom, Dick and Harrys. Look at, do we have the gratitude to recognize the contribution? Verghese Kurian, the man who has done yeoman service to farmers, the yeoman service to the rural economy, yeoman service to the milk, has not been recognized. I think India do not recognize the right people. We don't have the, we do not show the gratitude to the people who contributed to the Indian economy. And one more thing I want to tell you, it is not only with Verghese Kurian. Verghese Kurian example, it is tip of the iceberg. It is just a pointer. That is not the point here. The point here is, it could be Verghese Kurian there, or it could be, Azim Premji and Narayan Murthy in Karnataka who created lakhs of jobs for youths. It could be Tata's, it could be anybody. It could be a small hotelier. We have to show gratitude. We have to tell our children that look at these people who made what India today, these people who made what Bangalore today. How many of our people know, the Chikpete, Balepete, and the Bangalore market created by Kempegoda laid the foundation for business, Bangalore becoming what it is today. How many BCom students know this? How many BBA students know this? It could be aviation. Tata started aviation. Do we really? I mean, the point is this. The point is we should have gratitude for the people who contributed to this country. Look at the Tata's contribution. I think the most ethical company in India is Tata's. How many of us know what is the contribution of Tata's to this economy? How many of us know that what is the contribution of Tata's to the education? How many of us know that what is the contribution of Tata's to the healthcare? How many of us know that Tata's contribution to the science education, STEM education? Indeed, Institute of Science was once earlier known as Tata Institute. And if I ask the new generation, they do not know what is the contribution of Tata's to the starting of Institute of Sciences Bangalore. And to make our children to show gratitude to the icons who made difference to this business world, we have to teach business history to our commerce, management, business, accounting students. Another very important reason is that we have to re-look into the history from the lens of the present. History is very, very dynamic that way. It has to keep changing. I'm sorry, I would stop here. Anybody has any point you want to interrupt and ask something to me? If there somebody has started, let me see what they have started. Okay, dear participant, please mute your speaker. Okay, yes, sir. Okay, that is fine. Okay, that is not the point here. Anybody has anything to share with me in this at this level? Coordinator, at least you can unmute. Hello.
Hello. Sir, may I ask a question, sir?
Please.
Sir, you spoke about...
Madam, you introduce yourself and...
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, I'm Mamta Banur, Dr. Mamta Banur from GFGC Vijaypur, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Sir, I would like to clarify this. You spoke about Alfred Chandler.
Sorry?
And you said Alfred Chandler, sir, the professor of...
Chandler of Alfred Chandler. Okay,
yes, sir.
Okay.
Now you said that it is the history on which we build the future and not the present. And
Not
in the
I
next...
did not, okay, tell me.
And in the next slide, you said that we need not have to repeat the past mistakes, so that we will not repeat the past mistakes if we study the history.
Correct.
Now, how is that? I'm not getting that link, sir. It is the history which builds the future, or it is the present scenario which we look into back the history, and we do not repeat those mistakes, and we build the future. It is little confusing for me, sir.
I think you have asked two questions.
Yeah,
One is how that if we study the past mistakes, it will help us not to repeat those mistakes. Am I right?
Yes. That I agree, sir. I agree about that.
That is not the state. That is not the question. That is
not the question, sir.
You are seconding my opinion. Okay. What is your question then?
My question is, you said the organization building or performance of the, as per Chandler, the organization building and performance happens only because of the historical, if we study the history, and not because of the present scenario. That's what somewhere you mentioned that. That was little confusing.
I did not tell that
That was little confusing.
the present will not influence the future.
Yes, sir.
I did not tell that statement.
No, not the present will not matter. You said it is the present, it is not the present which will develop your organization, or which will actually result into the performance. It is the history which will result into the performance. Somewhere you mentioned it, sir.
I'm sorry.
I might have misunderstood. I don't know. I'm just clarifying, sir.
I did not mean like that.
Yes, sir.
What I mean is organizations' performance, for
Yes.
example,
Yes.
depends both on the present and the past.
History. Yes.
Past.
I agree.
We are focusing only on the present. That is why I did not talk about present. See, that is what you teach in the classroom today, right? How present is influencing the performance of the company, right? My point is not only the present, the past also influences
Exactly.
the future.
Yes,
Performance.
exactly.
You got my point?
Yes, sir. Exactly, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Sir. Thank you.
Okay. Now, that's what I was talking to you. Okay. Now, another point I want to, bring to your kind notice is that history is dynamic. History has to be written and rewritten every time based on the present context. Lens of the present has to be used to look into the history. Look at any historical event. For example, I will tell you, we tell, oh, that king has built this. This king has built this. Fine. I don't mind giving credit to the king or to the ruler. But my only question is, have we ever taught in our B schools how that king got resources, where the king got resources? Have you ever studied? I will come to Karnataka history, Mysore history. I don't know how many of you know. Yeah, I also have great respect to Krishnaraja Vadaya. He built one of the model Mysore state those days. We have to say hats off to him. Yes, I agree. But my question is not that. My question is, where from he got the resource? Have you ever taught? Have you ever come across? No. The KGF gold mine, what we got those days, what tax we got those days, what farmers gave the taxes, what sandalwood we had. We used to export sandalwood to other countries. I mean, have we ever studied about this? Now, the point is, we have to study the past. Of course, there was reason for historians to write only about Krishnaraja Vadaya. I am not, demeaning it. I am not telling that what they have written is wrong. I am telling what they have written is right. What the Diwans under the Mysore Vadayas have done great work. I fully give marks to them. But have we ever studied what is the source of their resources? Where from they got the resource? Is there any research on that? Have we taught see the millions of farmers who gave taxes, the way in which Karnataka used to grow sandalwood, the way in which we used to get gold in KGF, how much revenue it has brought to our state. Therefore, it is just an example. let me elucidate that to you. I can speak for hours together on that. That is not the point here. The point is this: we have to look into the history from different lenses. Say, for example, how many people have died while building a great monument? Have you ever thought? Who has those people who have died? And how many people have worked in that prem, and what is the package given to them? Have you ever studied about that? No. I think we, the business faculty, the management faculty, when we look at the history of the business, we can dig all this information, and which is very useful. Then only history becomes meaningful. It is not about the rulers. It is not about the, earlier writers had their own reasons to, celebrate the rulers. And because most of them were in their asthanas. But still, we have to look into the history from different lens. That is why E.H. Carr, British historian, diplomat, to learn about the present in the light of the past means, of course, as I just now told, we have to learn the present, we have to look into the past. In the same way, learn about the past in the light of the present. In the light of the present, we have to learn about the past. And the function of history is to promote a profounder understanding of both past and present through the interrelation between them. Please understand, history is not just looking forward from the backward angle. It is not only learning for the future from the past. It is also re-looking into the history of the past from the lens of the present. And I think if we have to do that, we have to study the business history. Another very important reason, this is very, very important to me, to extrapolation, to take decisions. We have to study business history. What we teach in B schools, what we teach in commerce schools, what we teach in accountancy, or what we teach in business schools, we make our student to take decisions in marketing, HR, or supply chain logistics, or whatever sector they study. That is why next my half an hour time I will spend on how the study of business history will help us to take decisions. That is, I titled it as extrapolation. I mean, as you know, I have explained you why we have to study business history from the point of knowing sustainability, not repeating the mistakes, impact on different sections, to show gratitude, to relook history from the lens of the present. And the last and the most important one is extrapolation. That is why I have prepared few more slides exclusively on this, because being B school, being graduates or MCOM or MBA or CA or whatever qualification you do, we have to do at the end of the day, ask the student to take right decisions. My question is, does studying history helps us to, take proper decisions, extrapolation? Now, Alonzo McDonald, he was also faculty at Harvard Business School, and he was later becomes a businessman and a philanthropist. And what he says is, this is very important, how business history has to be studied is, business history is not useful just as a kind of academic or intellectual exercise. It has to do with an established set of facts. I repeat, madam and all others who are attending this refresher course, remember that history has to be studied with the established set of facts. In the same way that a financial exhibit has to do with the established set of numbers, history has to be studied with the set of facts. Business history has important use in simply getting things, events, and facts into shared memory. What is important is getting things, events, and facts of the past into the shared memory for the future, for taking right decisions. Another very important work, this is very, very crucial work and important work, Jones and Zetlin Zadin, and they are from University of Amsterdam. Indeed, they have written a wonderful piece, the Oxford Handbook of Business History. In that book, if you can put your hand into that, they write about the world's business history. But sorry state of affairs is that they write in that book, we do not get much information on Asia, particularly India, because India doesn't have the culture of, storing the history. Especially businessmen do not share the documents, do not share the records. And, that's a different issue. I don't want to spend time on that. Why they do like that, except few houses like Tata's and very few houses, have recorded history. They say produced valuable evidence linking business history with economic theory, economic development, and management studies. In their book, the Oxford Handbook of Business History of the World, they have proven that there is a produced valuable evidences linking business history with the economic theory, economic development, and management studies. Please understand, the authors argues that business organizations, enterprises, and society gets benefited by studying the business history. Jones and Justin, profoundly proposes that business history has to be taught in B schools to both undergraduate and postgraduate students. And that is very, very important masterpiece. Another very important thing is that Charles Booth, the professor of University of West England, and Michael Rowlinson, professor University of London, they have outlined, this is very, very important and when it's technical, I don't know how much I am in a position to address you, because this is one topic which I teach my MBA students for 1 month. And I don't know, I take 14 to 16 hours to teach this topic of 10-point agenda. And what they say is, business history and management studies are interrelated, interwoven, interdependent. They have to be studied. Why they have to be studied? The 10-point agenda, they call it as historic term. This is the word they have coined. The points they explain are, from the organizational theory perspective, we have to study business history. These are the 10 points coined by these authors. They call it as historical term, 10 points historical term. Historical methods and styles of writing. The philosophy of history and historical theories. Corporate culture and social memory. Please understand, this is very, very important. Corporate culture and social memory. What they mean by this? What they mean by this is, the other day, Nandan Nilekani was addressing the gathering of Indian entrepreneurs, startup entrepreneurs. He was telling, Indian culture still not matured enough to build $1 trillion company. Say, for example, all of you know that Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia are inching in the range of $3 trillion. That is 3,000 billion worth companies. Now, in India, the biggest company may be, 20 lakh company, 20 lakh rupees company, right? 20 lakh crores company. The biggest company in India, maybe Reliance Industries or things like that, is worth 20 lakh crores, right? We are far, far behind. What are the reasons for that? With the world's largest population being in India, and he argues that there are many factors, including the corporate culture and culture of the society, social memory. Of course, it is a big topic which needs a lot of time to elucidate. Organization history, business history and theory, business ethics in history, meta narratives of corporate capitalism, management history and management education, public history. I mean, looking, this is what the authors consider as 10-point historic turn. Why we have to study business history in B schools in particular, and business history in general to the general public. Why we have to study business history? This is the argument they propose. After telling all these things, you can come to a conclusion, or I don't know how many of you agree with me and disagree with me. That is a point, because you can ask me a question, sir. You have been talking about the topic, telling that we have to study business history in B schools. We have to teach business history. We have to research business history. Indeed, two of my students have done PhD on business history on different topics. One has done on the history of coffee. The other one has done on the general Karnataka business history. And you can ask me a question, sir, why you think we have to study business history? And these are the arguments you propose to study business history. Are there no counter arguments? Yes, there are counter arguments. There are many people who argue that we should not teach business history to our students. Why? One of their fundamental argument is that business history is the history of the exploiters. The exploited does not get mentioned. We talk about mining. We don't talk about how many people have died in the mines. We talk about building great dams. We don't know how many farmers have sacrificed their day's meal for that dam. We talk about great corporate houses. We don't talk about how many they have exploited. If you ask me, is there no water in this argument? There is water in this argument. If you ask me, there is no iota of truth in this argument. Definitely, there is substantial truth in this argument. I also agree that history of business history in the world, in particular, and in general, and in particular, business history in India is the history as the exploiters. But it doesn't talk about the exploited. That is why people say we should not teach business history in the B schools. Look into the various, stakeholders in business. We talk about a great, say for example, we built a great, wonderful international airport, Kempegowda International Airport at Bangalore. It is a greenfield project. All of you know that it has started from the scratch. When we have started from the scratch, somebody has given farmers have given 5,000 acres of land to greenfield project. Now you know that who owns it? I don't know how many of you know this. It is owned by a Canadian, Fairfax. The name of the company is Fairfax. Of course, the name of the entrepreneur is Prem Watts. He is basically from Andhra Pradesh, but he is a Canadian citizen. And he lives in Canada. He lives in Canada and he is a Canadian citizen. And of course, close to 74% of the stake of Kempegowda International Airport is in the hands of the Siemens and the Fairfax. Fairfax owns more than 50% of the holding in Kempegowda International Airport. My question is not that. My question is, I have read the history of Kempegowda International Airport written by somebody else. It never mentioned about the farmers who parted their land. It never mentioned about what they are doing, what their children are doing. I want to know that. That is the history of the land. That is the history of the Kempegowda International Airport. And it talks about how much flowers they export, how much perishable goods they export, who are the stakeholders. Earlier it is with GVK Group. Now it has come to the Fairfax. It's all fine for me. But does it ever talk about the exploited? No. Please understand one thing. My example is not explanation. It is only a pointer. My point here is that it's a very generic concept. History so far is about the exploiters. It never mentioned about the exploited. Therefore, people argues Now I am giving antithesis. Please understand one thing. So far, what I have spoken in favor of teaching business history, the thesis. Now I am giving antithesis. You can ask me now. See, when I was in school, we used to do Ekapatra Abhinaya. I don't know how many of you understand Kannada here. If I stand here, I am king. If I am stand here, I am villain. Now, all this time, I was talking in favor of business history, teaching business history. Now I am arguing against teaching business history. I mean, this is the argument against teaching business history. Another argument against teaching business history is that history never repeats. Then why study it? There is a saying that history never repeats. Then why study it? Now the answer is this. This is not the answer. I will answer that question later. There is one more argument that there are three points I have made. One point why we should not study business history is that business history is the history of the exploiter. The exploited doesn't get mentioned. This is one argument. Another argument is that history never repeats. Then why study it? This I will take up later. The one more argument is that historians are biased. According to the Geoffrey, a British historian, the history we read through based on facts is strictly speaking not factual at all, but a series of accepted judgments. E.C.H. Carr reinforces the idea of the subjectivity of history when he said, study the historian before you study the facts. Earlier, most of the historians who wrote about Tatas were under the tutelage of the Tatas. Who wrote about the kings and rulers, they were with them. Then that is why Carr says, before you study history, you study the historian. Because most of the time, what they gave is not fact, it is judgment. It is their judgment. They tell it was like this. This dam was built by that king. This is the contribution of the king. We all agree. This is the airport built by this fellow. This is the contribution of this. This monument is built by this fellow. This is the contribution of this. This is the judgment given by somebody else, and it is not based on fact. We have to study the historian before we study the facts, because if we study the historian, we understand the agenda of the historian, and therefore people say don't study that history. What is it written by that historian? This is the argument given against studying business history. I told you history never repeats. This is another argument. I will come to that. Yes, I too agree that history doesn't repeat. But one thing we must remember, Mark Twain says, history does not repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Very, very important. How powerfully he has put in, you see here. Mark Twain says that history may not repeat exactly the same way in which it has been written, but it rhymes. And other two arguments. What is that? History is the exploiters. Now, I want to give you synthesis. Please note here, I have spoken two things now. One is the thesis, that is why we have to study business history. I have given antithesis, why we should not study business history. What is the synthesis then? You can ask me, sir, what is your opinion then? Indeed, by the very title of my presentation today, you know what is my synthesis is. My synthesis is we have to teach business history to our students. But if we have to come to that conclusion, I have to answer these arguments against business history. One of the arguments I proposed is business history is the history of exploiter. Then we have to rewrite the history from the point of the exploited. We shall correct the wrong which has been done in the past. That is why we have to study business history. I have already told history never repeats, but Mark Twain says that history never repeats, but it rhymes. Therefore, we have to study business history. Historians are biased. Yes, there are historians who are biased, but we have to go to those historians who are not biased. We shall become those masterpieces who study both exploited and exploiters. We shall study based on the facts. We shall prepare our students to look at the history from the proper lens. We shall look students to look at the history from the present lens. We shall look at the history from the student from the perspective of understanding the past, from the present perspective. We shall study the history to understand the present. We shall study the history to extrapolate the future. And what point is this is, yes, the thesis is that we have to study history to understand from the perspectives of the sustainability, from the perspectives of the looking from the past, from the perspectives of showing the gratitude, from the perspectives of not repeating the mistakes, from the perspectives of extrapolation. But on the other hand, there are arguments against studying the history. Most of the arguments against studying the history is the way in which history is written. We have to rewrite the history. We have to research on the business history. Therefore, we have to study business history in B schools. Now you can ask me one more thing. Sir, you have spoken about Harvard Business School. You have spoken about, Adam Smith. You have spoken about IIM Ahmedabad. Is business history taught in other part of the world? Look at few examples I am giving you here. Business history unit at London School of Economics, the Center of Business History at Glasgow University, the Center of International Business History at Reading University. In Japan, Nakagawa, business history introduced in 1960, it is very popular. What is my conclusion then? My conclusion is that business history has to be taught to UG and PG level students of commerce, business, management, accounting, and all these areas. When we teach business history, you can do it in different ways. I don't know how many of you are from university system, how many of you are from autonomous college system, how many of you are from university affiliated college system. My request to you, if you are from university system, is that please impress upon your board of studies with your chairman to introduce business history as one of the courses. It could be Karnataka business history, it could be Indian business history, it could be world business history, or composition of all the three. Maybe one module of the global business history, two modules of Indian business history, maybe one module of whatever the composition your board of studies decides. If you are from autonomous school, please talk to your people, and if you want any help, I am there to assist you in this way, because we have designed, and I had the opportunity of interacting with few I'm professors from IIM Ahmedabad, and IIM Kozhikode. Kozhikode is also teaching. I don't know how many of you know, IIM Kozhikode is the first B school in the country to have a business museum. And they have, if you happen to ever visit IIM Kozhikode, don't miss to visit their museum, business museum. It is wonderfully designed and crafted and curated. And I also encourage you to have business museums in your schools. And if you want any help in curation, you can contact me. I am there with you, and I will do it. I am passionate about it. And if you are from affiliated colleges, I understand you have limitations because your university gives syllabus. But I am sure many of you are seniors, lecturers, and professors here. You can impress upon your university dean to introduce business history as one of the course, if not in all the, see, if you are so magnanimous and if you really appreciate it, in one semester you can teach global business history. In the another course, you can talk about the Indian business history, and in another course you can talk about Karnataka business history. If you say, sir, it is not possible to us all these things, please, if all these things are not possible, please take this as value-added course to students. Non-credit course, value-added certificate programs, or value-added course, maybe 20 hours, 30 hours, diploma courses, certificate courses, and if you mind, I think you can do it. But first thing is, you should get convinced that there is a strong argument to teach business history to our students. You imagine an MCOM student passing out of B school, a MBA student passing out of B schools, not knowing ABCD of Indian business history, how Tata's, built Indian, where from they came, how they built Indian business, and what are the first enterprises started by Tata, what are the hurdles they overcame, and what is their contribution to Indian economy, how ethical they are. And if you do not teach these things to our MBA students or BBA students for that matter, what type of BBS we are producing? If we do not know about Tata, if you do not know about GD Birla, Gunsham Das Birla, the patriarch of Birla Group, what type of MBS we are producing, and what type of BBS we are producing. And if you do not know who started Indian Airlines, Air India, and if you do not know the JRD Tata's contribution about that, what type of, it could be Narayan Murthy, it could be Azim Premji, it could be Tata's, it could be Varghese Kurian, it could be anybody for that matter. Of course, take at Nandini today. One of the greatest brand in India today is Nandini. If any brand is competing with Amul, that is Nandini. How many of our students would really appreciate the people who have built Nandini brand? And we are all proud of it. And today we have seen how, when there was problem in Tirupati, with the ghee they used, and they immediately fall back upon the Nandini brand. Look at the, trust and the confidence the people behind Nandini built around that brand. What point I am trying to drive you home is, this is just an example. And I think there is a strong case. I know whenever I teach something revolutionary to you, it takes time for you to think and implement. And if anybody wants to do PhD in this space, and I think if they want any input, they can contact me. Indeed, I told you I have produced 2 PhDs in this space, and indeed one of the PhDs among these 2 is a masterpiece on the history of coffee, and it is one of its kind in India. It has got many uploads. I am very proud of it. And that is the thing. And with that, I know that